Hey everyone, it's Braden here at the channel Airless Quill 9. I saw that there's a new Warlock video, so we're gonna give it a watch and see what changes they made. So let's go ahead and start it.
Warlocks are really great. We're talking about them today, and there's a lot of new things in the new Player's Handbook.
The Warlock was, like all of the classes, a fun journey for us as we returned to it and looked at what could we do to take this class that so many people love playing with its very unique spellcasting system, its otherworldly patrons, its eldritch invocations. How could we preserve what's great about the class while also bringing improvements? One of the new things that Warlock players will see right away at level 2 is a new feature called Magical Cunning. And Magical Cunning is a way for Warlocks to get some of their packed magic back sooner than just on short rests and long rests. We knew that Warlocks often feel overly constrained when it comes to their spellcasting, and so Magical Cunning is a way to relieve some of the pressure there. Now, with Magical Cunning at level 2, something that used to be at level 2 then moved to level 1, and that's Eldritch Invocations. Eldritch Invocations you start getting right away as a Warlock, and over the course of your career, you're also going to get more of them than you did in the 2014 Warlock. That required us to revisit every single Eldritch Invocation, not only look at what it does and see if there are ways that we could improve it, but also we looked at, are the invocations coming in at the right levels? Invocations, since they were introduced, often have level prerequisites, and we wanted to make sure that the prerequisites were right. And so people who are familiar with the Warlock will find that a number of invocations had their level prerequisites lowered. So there were a number that required you to be quite high level that you can now take at a lower level. But then because this feature is now available at first level, many of the invocations that didn't have prerequisites before now do, because we did not want most of the invocations to suddenly be available to you immediately at first level, but we also wanted to make it so that you would not be overwhelmed as you considered your choices as a Warlock player. And so the level prerequisites really, in a way, help pace how many invocations you have to consider as you go on your Warlocky journey through this class, leveling up. And at first level, your main choices when it comes to invocations are 3 that used to be a whole separate class feature. And those are the Pact Boon, what previously were Pact Boon features, now are invocations.
Yeah.
And this is a big deal because not only do you get things like Pact of the Blade or Pact of the Tome or Pact of the Chain, you can now get it at first level.
Yeah.
But because we have turned them into invocations, you can now theoretically over time get all of them.
Yeah.
So they used to be mutually exclusive choices. If you chose Pact of the Blade, you were never going to get Pact of the Tome. Now, if you want to build your Warlock to have both, you can. This invocation choice at first level is the choice you're now making when you create your Warlock, rather than choosing a subclass.
Yeah.
Subclass now, like for all of our classes, is at 3rd level. That's been standardized for all of our classes. But as a Warlock, you still have a very juicy choice at first level that shapes how your character is going to play, because you're deciding, am I leaning harder into the spellcasting side of my Warlock? Am I instead going to start going down a sort of Warlock warrior sort of path with Pact of the Blade? Or am I going to focus more on having spooky critters helping me with Pact of the Chain? That pact has been enhanced with more spooky critter options.
Yes, it has.
And what we did, and this is something that people...
Okay, I want to stop for a second. So I have had a love-hate relationship with the Warlock. I love the idea of it. I love the flavor of it. However, Warlock to me seemed like it was one of the weakest class executions next to I guess the Ranger at the time. I just I have played Warlocks before. I'm playing one right now in a campaign, and you just feel so constrained on what you can do as a player. So I am excited to hear that invocations have been moved to first level and that you get more of them. And I really like the idea of the pact options being invocations themselves and things that you can pick starting at first level. That will make up for a lot of the detriments of the class, in my opinion. And if the invocations or those pact invocations or anything like the or like what was shown in the Earnest Arcana, or the latest one that had the Warlock in it, I think it will be very, very good. So yeah, I'm excited for these changes to the Warlock. I know they made a lot more changes as well, so I'm excited to hear the rest of them, but I just wanted to state that up here up front as he's talking about invocations. And I do like that they've expanded the back to the chain option I'm talking about here.
People have often wanted, and we were glad to provide it, and that is we provided more familiars that speak to the different types of patrons that warlocks can later choose.
Yeah.
So we wanted to make sure that, whatever patron you choose from this book or from a later book, there is a critter option here that is going to feel appropriate. That's why now even a slad tadpole is an option. I mean, these horrific worms that burrow through things and people.
I do like this new familiar art.
If that is your bliss as a warlock player,
I hope they've upgraded the slad tadpole stat block because it is not great. And if it's going to be a familiar option, I really hope they improved functionality.
you can now have that, in addition to the other options that were present before.
Yes, that is my bliss. Also, a skeleton familiar.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Because again, we really are leaning into the spookiness of the warlock. This is, if you want to play a spellcaster who has all sorts of, spooky and occult magic, that is what this class is all about. So you also have a skeleton, but then on the other end of the aesthetic spectrum, you also could pick, something that is more whimsical or helpful, like a pseudo-dragon, or the sprite, which was available before, or a brand new monster, the Sphinx of Wonder. And the Sphinx of Wonder is a celestial that is here, speaking to the fact that one of the patron options in this book is the celestial patron. And then also the Sphinx of Wonder is a part of a reimagined family of sphinxes that people will get to see in the new monster manual. And the Sphinx of Wonder is one of the stat blocks that is available in the creature appendix, as are all of the creatures that the warlock can choose for this feature.
So that also tells me that they're redesigning sphinxes which is nice. I assume that means that Sphinxes are going to be celestials. And fits within the lore that was in the Monster Manual in 2014 more than what they were designed as.
So I mean, and then the full list again. Every monster that's mentioned, it's in the player's handbook. Imp, pseudo dragon, quasit skeleton, slod tadpole, which I love, Sphinx of Wonder, sprite, and even a venomous snake.
Yeah, the venomous snake used to be an option in the Find Familiar spell itself, but now it is actually specifically a warlock option.
I'm thinking they redesigned that stat block because I know for a fact that it's called the poisonous snake. So I wonder if they renamed it to make it more in line with the fact that snakes are venomous and not poisonous. But I don't know. We'll have to see.
Awesome.
Particularly because the venomous snake was actually mechanically better than all of the other options in Find Familiar.
Yeah.
And so it is moved
Attack-wise,
into the
yes, but you
warlock
can't
list.
attack
And
with
this
Find
again, like
Familiar.
if you went back to the chain, you have abilities later that enhance. So you can use the bonus action to cause them to attack. They could like swim or fly. They get all these other abilities if you choose to continue to stack. That's what I like about Warlocks so much, is they're so modular.
And that flexibility in building the character is true for each of these pact options that you choose at first level. Because if you choose Pact of the Blade, there are also later invocations that you can take that further enhance it. And enhance it in ways that the 2014 Warlock did not. You can get to the point where you are making extra attacks and healing yourself with your blade strikes. That is really satisfying and allows you to really be powerful as a weapon-using warlock. It used to be that you had to have a subclass that sort of really unlocked this.
Yeah.
That is no longer the case. Now you, with the base class, have this as a legitimate option. Pact of the Tome also has later invocations that build on it, but then also Pact of the Tome speaks to the fact that spellcasting in general for the Warlock has been enhanced. So in addition to there being the magical cunning feature that I mentioned before, we've also made more of the invocations work with more of the Warlock's spells than before.
Yeah.
So it used to be that most of the invocations that modified spells only pertained to Eldritch Blast.
Yeah.
And now, this is exciting for me as a person who enjoys playing Warlocks. Granted, I enjoy playing every single one of our classes, and I really love that we've now made it so that if you want to modify other cantrips, you can now do that. And Eldritch Blast is still fantastic.
Yeah.
It, is still a Warlock-specific cantrip. You really cannot go wrong, but you now have more build options when you come to this class.
You could have Ray of Frost that also knocks people back.
That's a great example of the kind of fun combo that we have built in here. I mean, because just think about that. You can hurl someone back if you decide to use Repelling Blast with Ray of Frost instead of Eldritch Blast. Hurl someone back and slow them.
Yes.
Which is essentially making your Ray of Frost slow them even more effectively.
Yeah.
Because it's going to, assuming they were trying to get to you.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe now they'll just decide to run towards somebody else, but that's probably what the Warlock was going for.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I like everything they've stated so far. It sounds like they're keeping the Find Familiar spell pretty identical to the way it is in 2014. So you will choose a stat block to summon. And I'm guessing they're keeping it to CR0 creatures that are tiny, which is makes sense with how that spell is supposed to be. It also, I'm interested to hear more about Pact of the Tome. They didn't really talk about Pact of the Tome, but if it's anything like it was in the Unearthed Arcana, you get one first level spell slot that recharges on a long rest, which is really nice, especially for the lack of spell slots that a warlock has. That's nice, and then you also get some additional spells and cantrips. So who knows how much they've redesigned it since then, but they didn't expand on it here. I like the idea of redesigning Agonizing Blast to work with any cantrip. Though if I had to guess, it's probably just cantrips with attack rolls. That makes Eldritch Blast not a required option for the Warlock, which is good because it always seemed like it was. It always seemed like you should choose Eldritch Blast, and then one of the first invocations to pick up is Agonizing Blast, because was the best damaging option available to you. Now you can go outside of that if you want, so you can really design the Warlock you want to play, which is very nice. But let's continue here.
Among the new invocation options, we even have like Lessons of the First Ones, which is a brand new invocation that simply lets the Warlock take another origin feat.
Yeah.
Those feats
That is nice. That's powerful.
Every character gets one now when they make their character at first.
That makes that makes a lot more versatility. That means you potentially can play a human warlock and then end up with 3 origin feats. And I'm guessing that invocation he was just talking about, that's probably one that you can take at 2nd or 3rd level. Or 2nd or 3rd level and higher. So you could potentially start the game really early in your career and have 3 feats, which is awesome.
Level. Well, if you as a warlock simply want to get more of those starting feats, that is one way you can use your invocation choices.
You're looking for more, like maybe you want the skilled feat, the alert feat, luck.
Tough, you want more hit points.
No, again, more modular, more customization for like what kind of creepy warlock you want to play.
And that invocation alone opens up so many modular build options because it gives you access to all of the origin feats.
Yeah.
And that's why in many ways this class is the character builder's paradise.
Yeah.
because of how many different ways you can combine all of these options.
It will be very hard to meet 2 warlocks that are exactly the same.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something we were going for. While wanting to preserve the special identity of like Eldritch Blast and all of that being a part of this class, we also really wanted to open up.
Which I assume what they've done is they haven't really changed Eldritch Blast at all. It's just exclusive to the Warlock spell list, is what I'm assuming. I doubt they made a feature just for Eldritch Blast. I assume it's just on their spell list, and it's the only spell list that has it, so yeah.
More ways to build your Warlock and play your Warlock. And people...
Which is really no different than 2014.
Are going to find that we did that not only in the base class itself, but also in the invocation options, and then also in the subclass option.
I mean, another big enhancement that I absolutely love is you can call upon your patron.
Yes.
Which seems so fundamental to being a warlock.
Yeah, so we realized while revising the class that the class had no built-in way to just chit-chat
Yeah.
with their patron, even though that is such a common shtick in campaigns to have warlocks, wanting to basically, call HQ and find out what their patron is up to, or to fight with them, because of course some warlocks don't like their patron.
Yeah.
It's sort of a boss that they're estranged with, or just a battery for their power that they don't actually like. We also have, just like in other classes, we've given warlocks now the epic boon at 19th level, and warlocks, of course, still have their great mystic arcanum feature, which gives them yet more flexibility in how they're built, and also their class spell list has been expanded. And this is true of every class in the book. Every list has more spells on it, but I think this will be especially great for warlocks because their class spell list was pretty short before. Now, it's still not at the length of, say, the wizard or even the sorcerer, particularly because warlocks don't just rely on their spells, they also rely on their eldritch invocations. And we also have to be careful whenever we put spells on the warlock spell list, how it interacts with pact magic, because unlike other spellcasters, their spells are always basically leveling up automatically.
Mm-hmm.
So there are certain spells that we have to be very careful about with warlocks. And but even with that carefulness being in the mix, people are going to see that their class list has some fun additions to it.
Perfect. The Archfey patron is super tempting, and if you like teleporting...
Okay, I must have missed where they talked about it, but Warlock is supposed to get a feature at 2nd level called, I think it's Magical Cunning, which lets them regain all their, it's either all or half of their pact magic spell slots when they roll initiative, which is very nice. However, I am interested to see if they kept the spell slots at the same amount they are, or as they were in the 2014 class, or if they have increased them out. I've always been of the mind that the amount of spell slots you have should scale with your proficiency bonus. At least you can start at 1 and then it will eventually increase to 2. I think they should go all the way up to 6 of them, considering how few you have. And yes, I know you get all of them back on a short rest, but it is very likely that players will show up in will enter a situation where short resting is not an option. So you as a warlock are going to be punished for that, unless you've held on to your magical cunning feature, which might just be their answer. It's going to scale the exact same, and then if you wish, you can use magical cunning and regain your spell slots back, which I guess is fine. But I'll have to play test it a little bit to see how it functions. But we'll see. Like now they're going to talk about the Archfey patron.
Holy cow. So tell me a little bit about the Archfey patron warlock.
We looked at the Archfey patron from 2014 and felt it needed a major enhancement.
Yeah.
People have often loved the theme of it, of forming a pact with, a member of the Fey court, and whether this is a person like the Prince of Air and Darkness or an Archhag. It has so much wonderful flavor.
Yeah.
But
I have heard that they are going to release higher CR hags in the monster manual. They're probably going to do Archhag versions of the hags in the monster manual, which to me sounds like a great idea and would be very nice, specifically for this subclass.
But we found that the gameplay of it was not living up to the flavor.
Yeah.
And we decided that because often...
Yeah, because the Archfey patron is crap. That's why. So it needed a redesign.
Our Fey-oriented player mechanics involve teleportation. We were going to go all in on that in the Archfey patron. And so what you have now is a subclass that is going to let you, vanish and reappear elsewhere frequently, but not just that. It also allows you to layer on extra effects each time you teleport using Misty Step. And this, by the way, is not just when you use Misty Step with your Steps of the Fae feature. The Steps of the Fae feature in the new subclass allows you to cast Misty Step a certain number of times per day without expending a spell slot. And then it also allows you to, again, put on these extra effects. But those extra effects can be put on whenever you cast Misty Step, not just when you're casting it for free. So also, if you decide to just keep casting it, even with your spell slots, you get to add on these extra effects. This is something that we explored previously.
So free Misty Steps, but upgraded Misty Steps, and a lot of them.
In the Eladrin of teleporting and having these extra effects. But the Archfey patron takes that notion.
Eladrin Archfey Warlock will be very nice.
And dials it up to 11. This includes helpful effects like teleporting and gaining temporary hit points, but then it also includes things like Taunting Step, where you impose disadvantage on someone's attack rolls unless they attack you. Now, and you as a Warlock player might be wondering, why would I want to encourage someone to attack me?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you asked, because as you go deeper into this subclass, you'll see that you then start gaining abilities where you can then punish people for attacking you by dealing psychic damage to them. You can also make it so that you turn invisible, and so now suddenly they have disadvantage to attack everybody else, but also you. We loved this shtick so much that in the level 14 feature, which is brand new, Bewitching Magic, we've made it so that once you reach this level, whenever you cast an enchantment or an illusion spell, hey, you can also Misty Step. And that Misty Step can have these extra effects. So this is going to be ridiculous in all the best ways.
Is that a part of the same action you cast a spell with, or does it just allow you to Misty Step as a bonus action when you cast one of those spells as your action? Or can you cast a bonus action one and then Misty Step as well? I wish he had expanded on that a little bit more. The idea of that feature sounds awesome, but I really want to know mechanically how it works.
Yeah.
We really wanted that Fey flavor, which includes often a kind of trickster element. And you're going to see this here of you're vanishing, you're reappearing, you're messing with the foe. Monsters are going to hate this Warlock.
And this is the core.
This just sounds like you're going to be teleporting around the battlefield quite a bit as an Archfey patron Warlock, which is cool. I'm totally down for it. That does make me think that if you want to play an Eladrin Archfey patron Warlock, or Eladrin Archfey Warlock, that's going to be you're going to be teleporting a lot, quite a lot, which is nice. It means you're always going to be able to stay out of reach of enemies. It'd be a very nice ranged warlock.
Identity of being a Fey, having a Fey patron.
Yes. Again, I look forward to people diving in. People got to see a version of this in the Unearthed Arcana process, and it is just a teleportation fantasia.
Yeah, that leads us into, let's talk about this Celestial patron.
So the Celestial patron originally appeared in Xanathar's Guide to Everything, now graduated to the Player's Handbook, and in the process, we have enhanced it in a number of ways. This subclass, along with the others, gets to benefit from the expanded spell list and spell chapter of this book. And I'm bringing that up now when we're with the Celestial patron, because one of the spells we were able to add to their list of spells is Summon Celestial, one of the new summon spells. And you're going to see that in a number of our classes that have either patron lists like this, or the oath lists in the paladin, or the domain lists in the cleric, and so on and so forth, that these subclasses really have benefited from the expanded.
I'm guessing now that the Great Old One patron lets you cast Summon Aberration.
Spell chapter in this book. Also, something we didn't talk about with the Archfey patron, which I'll mention here, all Warlock subclasses in the book have a major enhancement when it comes to that list of spells they get. In 2014, that expanded spell list that each patron provided simply gave you an expanded list that you could choose from when choosing the spells that your Warlock knew. A major difference now is you automatically have all of these spells always prepared, and they do not count against the spells that you prepare.
And Warlocks being prepared.
That means every Warlock that uses these subclasses is going to just suddenly have a much fuller kit when it comes to the spells that are available to them to cast with pack magic.
Yeah.
So that is a big deal, particularly important for the Celestial patron Warlock, because it's these spells that really help bring the Celestial flavor to life. It's how you get spells like Guiding Bolt, Cure Wounds, Aid. It helps you really fulfill that fantasy of being the helpful Warlock. And that in many ways is the identity of the Celestial patron Warlock. Not all Warlocks are necessarily selfish with their power.
But you still could be.
Yes, you absolutely
could be the most evil Celestial Warlock. You'd be like a hired hitman by the gods.
And people will find that there are a number of adjustments within this subclass, now tying into some of the material in the base class. Celestial.
I've always wondered if they have like a binder in front of them, or if they actually have a copy of the book that they're looking at. Telling them, or part of me thinks it's just a binder telling them what they can say.
Celestial Resilience, for instance, now gets to play off your Magical Cunning feature in the base class.
That's more art.
All really fabulous, including at level 14 in Searing Vengeance. This feature now applying to you or an ally.
Perfect. The Fiend has always been an extremely popular and iconic Warlock subclass.
Okay, so it sounds like small improvements to Celestial Patron, which is good.
And really strong out of the gate.
The Fiend of the 4 subclasses has the most of its sort of 2014 pieces still present.
Right.
But those pieces have all been enhanced. The spell list has been revisited.
I will say Fiend Patron is very good. However, its features did need some enhancement because they are average somewhat.
You can use some of your features more often than you could before, like Dark One's own luck. Hurl Through Hell is still terrifying, but also has sort of clearer functionality than it had before.
Mm-hmm.
You also, with the fiendish resilience that you get here, magical weapons no longer bypass your resistance.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So it's this, of the 4 subclasses, is the most like what it was before, but even so, you're going to find a bit better.
Oddly tanky in Baldur's Gate 3, really, because that constantly killing of a creature and getting temporary hit points, bouncing around like that, just kept alive on the battlefield much longer than I anticipated.
That tankiness in Baldur's Gate 3 is also here in spades because probably the biggest enhancement for the Fiend patron is in Dark One's Blessing.
Yeah.
Because now you gain its benefit whether you're the one who drops the foe or someone else does within a certain distance of you.
That's
so
good.
You are going to be farming
Very
those
good.
temporary hit points much more easily than you ever could before.
Great Old Ones. This one is, for all intents and purposes, a new subclass.
We really
that art.
rebuilt the subclass from the ground up, just like the Archfey patron, because we felt that the Great Old One patron in 2014.
I'll say I liked almost every single piece of art they showed. I don't know if I've just liked one so far. Sounds like Fiend patron is going to be in a good place. That improvement to Dark One's Blessing is good. I think he hinted at it that they've increased the amount of uses of Dark One's own luck, which is exactly what I think they should have done with that. It should have multiple uses, not just once per short or long rest. And it is nice that they clarified Dark Delirium. Not Dark Delirium. Hurl Through Hell. Dark Delirium was the old Archfey 14th level feature.
Oozed with flavor, and I very purposefully
Literally.
choose the word oozed with this subclass that is all about entities like Cthulhu.
Yeah.
But we felt that just as the Archfey patron didn't really deliver the goods well enough mechanically, we felt the same here. Those two subclasses really needed an overhaul so that they felt like peers to the Celestial and Fiend patron warlocks.
I imagine this one's been heavily redesigned since the Archfey was as well.
Celestial and Fiend patron warlocks were on really solid ground mechanically.
Yeah, absolutely.
But these two, they needed some love, and in this case, oh my gosh, did we pour on the ooze and the psionic power?
Yeah.
Because now you're going to be able to much more easily have that fantasy of using psychic power, harm people, whisper into other people's minds, to summon an aberration, because again, one of the benefits of having the new summoning spells in this book is that we could now build the summon aberration spell directly into this subclass, because the create thrall feature now relies on you summoning up this strange creature from beyond the stars.
He didn't say it, and if it's not, I'm going to add it in, but I really think the Great Old One should have had the Gazer as a Pact of the Chain option. But it doesn't sound like they included that, since that was from I think they put it in Monsters of the Multiverse, but it was in Morton Kingdom's Tomb of Foes. So it doesn't sound like they put it in, but I would allow that as an option for a Great Old One Warlock.
Which the new version of Summon Aberration, one of the options includes summoning a Mind Flayer.
Yeah.
So
that's neat.
the friend you summon might be a Mind Flayer that appears and is helping you. Now, not a Mind Flayer from the monster manual.
Yes,
it
but
is
a version.
It is a Mind Flayer option
It is a
within the Summon
curated
Aberration
stat
spell.
block.
And this is a
for
great
the
spell
players
list for
to
them, by the way. I mean, because that's a big change for these earlier ones. But Bringing Detect Thoughts, Dissonant Whispers, Phantasmal Force, Tasha's Hideous Laughter, Clairvoyance, Hunger of Hadar, Fusion, Summon Aberration, Modify Memory, and Telekinesis. And when you do damage, you can turn things into psychic damage.
Yes, because that connects
That's
to
really
the fact that 3 of the features in this subclass are entirely new. Now, Create Thrall is functionally also entirely new, but it's using the old name.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
Psychic Spells, Clairvoyant Combatant, and Eldritch Hex are all entirely new features in this subclass. And they are allowing you to, first off, when you cast enchantment or illusion spells, you can do so without verbal or somatic components because we wanted you to be able to feel like that psionic magic user where it's just your mind is doing it.
Yeah.
Cool.
And they're not,
I like
no one
it.
is necessarily seeing you do anything while you use your spooky magic. But as you mentioned, the Psychic Spells feature also lets you, when you deal damage with a Warlock spell, change it to Psychic.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
you can have, again, this
I
sort
like
of
that.
full psionic fantasy of whatever spell you're casting.
Since you have so few spell slots, it's not a broken feature.
That's dealing damage. It can be psychic damage.
And you can flavor that as this is all in your head.
Yes. Yeah. Well, particularly because they never saw you. They never saw you casting a spell.
Yeah.
So also then with Clairvoyant Combatant, this new feature ties in with the subclass's Awakened Mind feature, where you can, with Awakened Mind, create a connection between your mind and someone else's. Well, then with Clairvoyant Combatant, you can make that connection go bad. This is all about really zeroing in on a target and just heightening how much damage you're doing to that one target.
That's
This
cool
is
art.
actually a nod to how psionics worked back in first edition D&D, where you could have these psionic battles going on in people's minds, and nothing visible is even happening. You know, if someone were watching, like, it looks like those people are like flinching in pain, but from what?
Yeah.
And this subclass just brings that to the table.
The Eldritch Hex is significantly more powerful as well.
Yes, the enhanced version of Hex that you have is, again, all about heightening the suffering for this one target because it gives them disadvantage on saving throws. And so that is going against a certain ability. So you can, let's say if you're going to be casting spells that force wisdom saving throws, you can use this spell, your Hex, to give them disadvantage on wisdom saving throws. Again, can create this sort of snowball effect with your harmful magic against.
There's a lot of synergy with all of these subclasses. I mean, everything in the new player's handbook is very intentional. As a
I wonder if you also get Hex always prepared from that feature, or if they're just depending on you have Hex prepared in order to use that. Who knows? He didn't stay. He didn't say.
giant fan of Warlocks, it's very difficult to make a choice. These are all fantastically realized and hit many subgenres of this creepy genre that I love so much. People are going to love all this new.
Knowing how much of a Warlock fan you are, it was important to me To be able to hear you say that.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, Fiend and Celestial have always been very strong, but Fey and Old Ones is so strong and so specific. I absolutely love them, and they're so on theme, and I can't wait to optimize them in some builds. The new player's handbook is
Okay. Overall, sounds like they did a good job with Warlock. I do want to know some of the inner mechanics of some of those features. I can't wait to get a look at it myself. But unfortunately, that will be until September, which still seems like such a long ways away. But yeah, seems like they've made a lot of improvements to Warlock. Seems like it may be a lot more viable than it once was. So I am excited to play one. But that is all we're going to have for this video today. If you enjoyed, please feel free to like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of my content. But until then, you'll have a great rest of your day.